There's been a lot of talk about what we think the next remastered album is going to be from Prince. And it's an interesting question, but I think in the end it's all going to come down to money. So let's go through Prince's top 10 best-selling albums and figure out which we think will be the next remaster. Hey everybody, welcome to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. And it's funny because I actually had a video called Prince's Top 10 Selling Albums. I made that video years ago, and it kind of got taken down because I was using a lot of the music and stuff, so it got taken down, and I'm like, I'm not going to even push for that video to be a thing anymore, because you're right, I was kind of breaking the rules. I was using larger snippets of the songs and all that stuff. But there's nothing saying I can't make a replacement video. And I think within the context of the larger discussion of what do we think the next remaster will be, talking about his top 10 best-selling albums is important. The estate isn't necessarily going to do like a huge deluxe version of, say, New Power Soul. It didn't sell all that many copies, and also they don't have the rights, which is also kind of a reason why some of these are kind of all bundled up together. But we're going to go through each of the top 10 best-selling albums, and we'll talk about why maybe it is the best choice for the next remaster, and maybe why it's not. Before we get into that, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. If you want to support the channel even further, like beyond that, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/princessfriend, or you can hit the join button right below this video and become a YouTube member. Either way, you'll get tons of bonuses and stuff, and you help to support the channel, so it's great. Okay, so let's get into the top 10. The number 10 best-selling Prince album is Emancipation. It sold 1,250,000 copies worldwide. I'm not feeling this as the next big deluxe edition. One of the reasons for that is because they did just technically do a legacy reissue of this album on vinyl. And I looked at the numbers, and it actually sold fewer than the other ones that were also up for that reissue at the same time, largely because it's a lot of music. It's 3 hours of music. It can be daunting to some people. Even if they were to eventually do a big deluxe version of Emancipation, I don't think now is the time for that. Even though I love Emancipation, you should go check out my review of it. It is awesome. But at under 2 million sales, it's kind of hard to justify that, especially since Prince actually split it up into 3 different discs, and each disc is a record sold. So technically, a third of that number is how many actual albums were sold. It's a travesty in my opinion. I love Emancipation. I think it should definitely have sold more, but I don't think it's a good contender for the next remaster. His number 9 top-selling album is Musicology. And you all know how much I love Musicology. It's probably my second favorite Prince album from like all of his stuff. And don't quote me on that, it might change later. But it sold 2,047,000 worldwide. Now, one of the tricky things that Prince did in order to get that number is that he went on tour, and every time somebody bought a ticket, they got a copy of the album, which means a lot of that number is not people who bought it in stores. Now, do I care about that? No. People got the album, people bought it, people listened to it. It's amazing. It's a great album. You should go listen to it now. But in terms of album sales, without the help of a tour, will this album sell as much? That's a good question. They did just recently do a legacy reissue on vinyl of Musicology as well, and it did really well, actually, in those numbers. But they did just recently do that, so a big deluxe version of Musicology, I'm not seeing it. At least not anytime soon. The number 8 best-selling Prince album is Controversy. That one sold 2,680,000 copies worldwide, which isn't bad, actually. And the reason why it sold actually even that many after Dirty Mind's numbers weren't that great is because of the change in the look and the style that Prince was doing around that time. Dirty Mind actually sold far fewer than Warner Brothers and Prince were hoping, but it was also a large departure from Prince, which was the album before it. But going from Dirty Mind to Controversy was a lot cleaner of a transition, and Controversy stuck a little bit closer to Prince's new style that he had kind of established for himself, and it did really well. But honestly, I can see an argument for Controversy era Deluxe Edition. He did write a lot of different material during that time as well, so there's definitely room for that. The 80s stuff obviously sells really well, so that might be something that the estate and everything is looking at. But I think it might be going too far earlier than Purple Rain to really kind of hit the right target audience. So I can see it, but it's probably not likely. His number 7 best-selling album was Parade. Parade actually sold 4,210,000 1,000 sales. That's a great number of records. But of course, Parade was coupled with a movie. So unless they were going to do a remaster of the movie, and that would also be in conjunction with Warner Brothers, we're not likely to get a deluxe version of that. Now, would I want that? Oh, hell yeah. I would love to see some of the stuff that Prince wrote around that time, a lot of kind of the bootlegs and stuff that I've seen in those eras. They're really kind of good, and I would love to have those kind of in there and also remastered. I would also love to see maybe an extended cut of the movie. I think that would be really cool. I know a lot of people have been talking about a color version of the movie. I don't really see the need for that, but I mean, you could always release a version of it that's in color for those people who want that. So what are some reasons that I don't see that happening? Well, the deal that Warner Brothers has right now with the Prince estate is that they're going to end up taking control, the Prince estate is, in 2021, they're going to take control of everything that was not directly linked to a movie. Which means if this one was to get a deluxe version, that would mean the Prince estate having to work hand in hand with Warner Brothers. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of muddy the waters. It muddies how much money they can make off of that, and it makes it a little bit less enticing for the estate to have to deal with a third party as opposed to just, hey, we're going to release this ourselves. So I would like to see a Parade one. I don't think it's going to be the next one, though. It's a little tricky. Prince's number 6 best-selling album was Sign of the Times, and that one sold 4,225,000 sales worldwide. The question becomes, is Sign of the Times the best one to release next? I kind of argue that it's a good one. We could actually get that one out and it would sell really well. Prince also, again, had a lot of Camille and Roadhouse Garden. All that stuff was around that era. So we could technically get that and release it. I think one issue that we have is that a lot of the 1986 stuff that Prince had was released on Crystal Ball. So that would be some of those tracks that we wouldn't necessarily want to just get again. So Prince might have shot this project being a deluxe edition kind of in the foot a little bit, using a lot of like his really, really good tracks on Crystal Ball. Also, there's the deluxe Sign of the Times movie that was already released in Germany that had like the documentary with Cat Glover and all the other band members and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting thing of, I don't know how the licensing and all that stuff works. Would that mean that if they did want to release this as an album and include a remastered version of the movie, that they would be able to sell it everywhere but in Germany? And how does all that stuff work? So again, I think that there might be even a couple of different barriers that would be keeping Sign of the Times from being the next release as a deluxe edition. I guess we'll have to see. The number 5 best-selling album at 4.6 million copies is Around the World in a Day. Love this album. It was the first album after Purple Rain, and that is actually why the numbers are huge. And in my vision of all of this, I see the numbers here probably being higher than they would have been if it was not the direct next album after Purple Rain, because a lot of people bought the album thinking it was going to be Purple Rain 2 and were sorely disappointed. And then of course the question becomes, would they then buy that album as a deluxe edition with new material and all of that stuff? But would they sell as many copies if they went with this album versus another album that didn't necessarily benefit from like hype at the time? I love Around the World in a Day, but I think that's a crucial question that would need to be asked to see if it was going to be the next remaster. Okay, the number 4 best-selling album from Prince actually was 1999, and that is at 6.4 million sales. And we just got a deluxe edition of this, and I think it was stellar. You can go check out my review, my unboxing, all of my talk about it. I've done a ton of material here on the channel about the 1999 Deluxe. It's super good, and they did a great job with it. So moving on. The number 3 best-selling Prince album was Diamonds and Pearls at 6,750,000 sales. And honestly, this one is a really good contender for the next deluxe remaster. I think the only barriers to Diamonds and Pearls being the next one is that it did rely heavily on that early 90s New Jack Swing, that kind of feel and sound. So I don't know how well that would translate to a more modern audience today. It was huge at the time. It was a giant album for Prince. But would people today, besides us, who we're probably going to buy whatever they release, would people today rush to the stands to buy this one? And there's a bunch of extra tracks on there, not only Horny Pony, which I've done a review for here, which was one of the B-sides, but there's a bunch of like different edits and cuts and stuff of all these different songs. You could actually make it a big collection with like the Get Off and all the Cream stuff. You could include all of that stuff in there. Remaster those tracks, that would be awesome. So I can see that. The other thing that I have with a lot of remastering of Prince's stuff is that things that were released after he established Paisley Park, I don't feel really require a ton of remastering because he was kind of in the studio. It was like had the latest tech, like he got the sound that he needed. Remastering earlier ones, that makes sense to me because, you know, he was making it in his closet or in a California studio or the one over here, like, or in somebody's garage, like wherever he could, he was recording stuff. So that stuff kind of benefits from a real remastering. But Paisley, like Diamonds and Pearls sounds amazing. So it may not need an actual remaster. The number 2 best-selling album was Batman with 7 million sales worldwide, only edged out Diamonds and Pearls by a little bit. And here's the thing, we just passed the Batman 30th anniversary. That was in 2019. So the question here is, if they were going to release a remaster of this, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like Dance with the Devil and stuff that they could include as remastered B-sides and lost cuts and stuff, but if they were going to release this one as a deluxe, wouldn't you think that they would have done it last year? So that becomes kind of the argument here, is that the timing, I think, for doing a remaster of the Batman album was last year. I don't think 2020 is a great time for that. Maybe 2024, when they get around to it, I could see that. People do like to go with like multiples of 5 for anniversaries. So maybe 2019 was its time, 2024 possibly in the future. We'll see what happens, but I'm not seeing it. Again, because it's kind of like Parade, where it would need to be released in conjunction with a third party, being Warner Brothers, so it's another movie one. I don't know. We'll have to see. And the number 1 best-selling Prince album at 21 million sales worldwide, obviously, is Purple Rain. We did get a deluxe of that. I did the comparison of the Purple Rain Deluxe and the 1999 Deluxe. Go check out that video, that's a good one. And I think it really kind of set the bar because Prince had a hand in working on the Purple Rain Deluxe, and I think it came out better for that reason. And the 1999 Deluxe was kind of following suit, and they were figuring out how they could build upon the way that Prince did it. So I was very happy with it, but that was his best-selling album. And it makes sense that that would have been the first deluxe version that they did, of anything. Now that we know what the top 10 are, there were really only a couple of really good contenders in there. At number 3, I would probably say Sign of the Times. I know a lot of people are like, Sign of the Times needs to be the next one. I don't see it. I don't see it being the next one, and I could be wrong, and honestly, I kind of hope that I'm wrong, but I don't see it. My number 2 choice would be for Around the World in a Day. I think being his number 5 best-selling album, I think a lot of people will be able to get over that initial hype, and maybe some of those people who didn't like it because it wasn't Purple Rain 2 have since come to their senses, and they're like, oh, well, I mean, definitely we want it now. It's going to be amazing. Maybe it might be able to get people into kind of the flavor of rebellion that Prince definitely had. But I think the most likely one is Diamonds and Pearls. In terms of the number of sales, and yes, 1999 actually sold fewer albums than Diamonds and Pearls. That's true. But now that they've gone with Purple Rain and 1999, but if we just say nothing that's not in the top 5 isn't going to make it, that means that Diamonds and Pearls, Batman, and Around the World in a Day are the other 3 that are the most selling. If we take Batman out, because again, it's weird to work with third parties, that kind of leaves Diamonds and Pearls as the highest selling album that they would be able to market. And again, there's a lot of like hidden lost tracks and stuff in there. I could see a lot of great things coming out from a Diamonds and Pearls Deluxe. And that would be my guess as to what we're going to get in the next one, based on album sales and style and how much trouble it would be to release it. But what do you guys think? Let me know about your thoughts down in the comments. Tell me definitely which one you would want them to release next, but then also tell me which one you think they will release next, because that is 2 different answers, even for me. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when Prince's Friend releases a new video. Check us out on social media at Prince's Friend YT. That's for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/princessfriend, or hit the join button to become a YouTube member. And otherwise, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all. Check you in the next video.